this is step 11, and these are your resources, setting your resources up in your project. So those of you who subcontract everything out and don't manage resources, really, you leave that to your subcontractors, you can jump straight to step 15 in that video. But if you do deal with resources, then you need to watch this. Now I'm going to put the resources in this project file, and so I need to flick to a different view. Now before I do that, I'm going to hit this drop down on my quick access toolbar, and I'm going to turn on the view button because I love the view button. It allows me to flick to different views really easily, and it doesn't take up a lot of real estate on my screen, and it doesn't require me to go traveling through the ribbon. So I'm going to flick to the view called resource sheet. Now the resource sheet is where you put all the resources you have at your disposal. So some people might be individuals. So I might have, for example, Brian. So I have an individual and I might have another one called Susan who are going to be working on this project. So individual people. But then I might also have trades. So I might have an electrician. But then I might also have trades that work day shift and night shift. This is a 24-hour project, I might add. So I might have a fitter who's day shift and a fitter who's night shift. So I usually just put DS and NS on the end. And so if I go up to here and press the insert key, I might repeat electrician, but these are electricians who work night shift. And if I go up to here and press F2, these are electricians who work day shift. So I've got my trades as well as my individual people. But I also might have certain costs like travel. So I'm going to put travel in here. And I might also have certain materials like concrete. Concrete. Yeah. So, and then I might have certain equipment like a digger. Things like that. So list all your resources, whether they be materials, whether they be equipment, whether they be sort of costs that you want to assign to tasks, whether they be trades, and if those trades are day shift or night shift, or whether they're individual people. Now each one of these has defaulted to work, and work means that they cost you on an hourly or a yearly or a per use basis. But when it comes to material like concrete, that's a little bit different. So I'm going to hit this drop down and change concrete to material. And I'll just widen that column a little bit. Now, if I widen this column, this is the material label. So some materials will be kilograms, some materials will be linear meters, some materials like concrete might be meters cubed. So you can have different labels for your materials only. You wouldn't put them necessarily on any of your work. Now, the initials is something you can assign to each one to uniquely identify each one. So I could go E day shift and E night shift and F day shift and F night shift. So you can give them initials if you want to uniquely identify them. So now everybody's uniquely identified. You can even put them into groups. So like this group could be day shift, night shift, day shift, and night shift. One thing I actually have omitted is a contractor. So maybe I have Acme, Ace Plumbing, and that'll do. And so they're a plumbing company. So I could have a group called tradies, or a group called subcontractors, or a group called, materials. You can use that if you wish. You don't have to use them. You do have to put a resource name. You do have to identify the work on the material. And now we go across to the maximum units. Now, some of you may be seeing your units in percentages. I dislike that intensely. So if you want to change that, you can go to File, you can go to Options, you can go to Advanced, Schedule, and you can ask to see here, show assignment units as decimal or percentage. I like to see mine as decimal. So you may want to change that as well, and okay, and that's why I'm seeing a decimal value in this column. I have 1 Brian, 1 Susan. Now I have 10 day shift electricians and 9 night shift electricians. I have 8 day day shift fitters and I have 6 night shift fitters. Travel, I'm just going to leave that. Concrete as a material doesn't relate. I have 2 diggers and one contractor. So that's where your units come in. It's really the number of personnel that you've got in these various groups. Now the rates, Brian's on a salary, say 100,000 per year. So that's how you'd enter that. Just put per Y for anybody who's on a salary. And let's say Susan is on 105,000 per year. And it will work out, when I assign Susan to a task for 2 hours, it'll work out what that 2 hours is costing us if she was on that salary. Be careful not to put per H, make sure you put per Y, or you're going to blow your budget really quickly. Now, electricians, I might put $65 an hour, both day and night. Maybe we give them a little bit more, 75, and fitters, let's put them 60, and night we give them, say 70. So that's how much it's costing us per hour, standard rate. Now, travel is just a straight charge, and that's where I'm going to change work, to cost. I'm just going to change travel to costs. We didn't look at that third option there, which means that we don't enter anything in here. So travel is a cost, and you'll see how that works as we progress. Now, concrete per cubic metre, 250 per cubic metre. The digger maybe just costs us every time we use it, so it's a day rate. So I might put 500 as a day rate. And the contractors, well, they invoice us. So we're not putting an hourly rate or an overtime rate or a cost per use. And as far as overtime, let's just say that overtime, 100, 120, 100 again, and 120 again. Okay, so there's our rates there. Now, each of these rates is accrued as work in progress, so it's not at the start or the end of a particular task they're assigned to, it's prorated across the tasks. Now, really, the important thing here is the calendar, the base calendar that is assigned to each resource. Every resource, with the exception of costs and materials, is given a copy of the project calendar as their calendar. Which is fine if you're dealing with a standard calendar, but not if you're dealing with a 24-hour calendar for your project. You don't want people to be working 24 hours. So what you could do is you could edit Brian's copy of his 24-hour calendar or Susan's copy of her 24-hour calendar. So let's take Susan, for example. If I double-click Susan and I go change working time, I may say, look, Susan works Monday to Friday, say 8 till 5. So the work weeks gets chosen, and the details regarding what her work week looks like gets adjusted in here, details. So she's working Monday to Friday, set these days to specific times, and she's starting, if I just edit these, you can press F2, she's starting, say, what do we say, 7 till 5. Let's say we go with that. And I'll take that A out and put a P. Project is very, very particular, so you must be very careful editing these. If it starts throwing errors at you, just cancel and go back in again. But that's Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. are her working times, and I OK that. And that's what I'm seeing on here. As I click on any given day, I'm saying 7 till 5. But it still believes that she works Saturday and Sunday from midnight to midnight. Not good. Work weeks, details, Saturday and Sunday, set these to non-working times and OK. Now it's what we would like to see. Susan works from 7 till 5, Monday to Friday, and not Saturdays and Sundays. And so I OK that and I OK that. So what will happen is when you put your tasks into your 24/7 project, they'll literally sit wherever they want to sit. But as soon as you assign Susan to a particular task, it'll pull it to the nearest Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. It will not leave that task on a Saturday and Sunday, and it will not leave it outside of 5 p.m. because Susan doesn't work those hours. So she or the resource will now start driving some of these tasks. So we've edited Susan's copy of the calendar, and we could do the same with Brian. Double click Brian, change working time, work week, details, Monday to Friday, set these to specific times, F2 to edit that, going to change that to 7, change that to 5 p.m. Then choose these two, non-working and OK. And so that's Brian's setup. So you could go through and edit each individual one. But if I've got a lot of resources and basically my night shift work a 12-hour shift and my day shift work a 12-hour shift, I just really want to create a 12-hour night shift calendar and a 12-hour day shift calendar and assign it to those various resources. So let's show you how you create a calendar. Without necessarily double clicking anybody or sitting on anyone in particular, I'm going to go to project, I'm going to go to change working time. Now, because I went through that button, I have this button. If I didn't go through there, I wouldn't get this. I'm going to create a new calendar. I'm going to call this 12-hour night, let's start with day shift, 12-hour day shift. And okay. So that's the name of it. Now I'm going to go to work weeks and I'm going to go to details and I'm going to select Monday to Sunday and say when those 12 hours start and finish. So let's say they start at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I'll change this to 6. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And okay. So this means that we have now got a 12-hour day shift calendar, a brand new calendar, that is 7 days a week, and they work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And okay. And so now I would say, well, my electrician's day shift, I'm going to choose the 12-hour day shift calendar, and my fitter's day shift, I'm going to choose the 12-hour day shift calendar. And so then you would just create a 12-hour night shift calendar and you would assign that to the night shift group. Hold on one moment. All right, so let's do this. So change working time, create a new calendar. I'm going to call it 12-hour night shift. Let me just cancel for a second. Oh, it's an hour as an H-O-U-R. I want to be consistent. So this is my 12-hour night shift calendar. Make a copy of the 12-hour day shift calendar. No, just create a new base calendar and okay. Now my 12-hour night shift, work weeks, details, Monday to Sunday, set these to specific times. Now I'm going to say that they start at 6 p.m. and they finish at 6 a.m. And row 2, click, is to be deleted. And that, all right, is where things start getting a bit tricky. Notice how it's not keeping up. All right, so what you need to do is you need to think about when things start and stop. A night shift actually crosses over 2 days. So it's not just 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. because the a.m.'s on the next day. So I'm going to show you this. What you're effectively saying is as of midnight, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., you're working. Let me change that. Then you come back that evening at 6 p.m. and you work till midnight, 12 a.m. And that is really what's happening. You are working from, on a Monday, you'd be working from midnight to 6 a.m. and then you'd be coming at 6 p.m. and working till midnight. Tuesday, you'd be going midnight to 6 a.m. and then 6 p.m. See how it crosses over? So you've got to take that into account when you're designing your night shift calendar. So I'm going to go okay. I'm going to go okay, and it means that I can now assign my 12-hour night shift calendar to my electrician, 12-hour night shift, and my 12-hour night shift calendar to my fitter. So that's an example of how you create calendars for specific groups. What we now want to do is we want to look at the rates. When I look at a certain person or a group like the electrician day shift, double click. When I double click them and I go to cost, effective as of now, they are $65 an hour and 100 overtime. Now, effective as, say, 6 months from now, so that would be the 1st of the 11th, maybe they're going to go for a rate increase. So I'm going to go over to this column and say 5%. So they're going to go for a 5% increase in their standard rate, and as soon as I click on the next cell, it works that out, and a 5% increase in their overtime rate. So you can just put a percentage in and okay. Whereas the fitters, for example, if I double click them, they might under cost, just effective as the 1st of the 11th, 6 months from now, whatever your 6 months is, I'll just type in 65 and 105. So you can just put a specific amount in, or you can put a percentage in. That is their rate effective over the time, so you can just keep going downwards. But you can also give them an A rate, B rate, C rate, D rate, or E rate. So it can get quite complex in here. A lot of my clients actually have costing systems or accounting systems that handle this. So find that point where you are recording information because it's of value, not making work for yourself. And okay, if you've already got a costing system or accounting system that's doing that all for you, you don't need to do all that. We are up to step 12. We've set up our resources. Now we're ready to assign resources to tasks. I'm going to flick to the view Gantt chart. I'm now going to decide to assign somebody to a task. I've got this subtask here, for example. Let's take this one. 2 days is the duration of this subtask in row 3. If I'm going to assign a resource, I'll go to resources in my ribbon and I'll probably use the assign resources dialog box. What this is an alphabetical list of all the resources that you put in your resource sheet. Let's say I'm going to assign a day shift electrician to this task. So I put 1 in the units column. If I press enter, then it's still a 2-day task, and I've assigned an electrician day shift, and they appear on that task, and it's actually shifted the task. And that's affected some of the times because the electrician's day shift start at 6 and work to 6 p.m. So it may result in your resources driving the start and finishes of your tasks. It's also going to cost me $3,120, and if I double click the electrician day shift, that's because they're on $65 an hour, and I have put one electrician on $65 an hour who works a 12-hour day for 2 days. That's how that figure is derived. Now, if I want to think to myself, no, I actually want to put 2 electricians on that job, what I want to do is remove them and then assign 2 electricians. And the reason for that is if I now change this 1 to 2, I'm going to halve the duration of this task. Let's show you. So if I change this to 2 and press enter, I have now halved the duration of that task because twice as many hands, less work. If I change it back to 1 and enter, which is the same as hitting assign, it goes back to being a 2-day task. So the more hands you throw at a task, the less time it takes, and vice versa. If I want 2 electricians to work on that task and for that task duration not to change, then I would actually click on here and press delete or remove, and I would go back to here and put 2 electricians on it. Now I've got 2 electricians working on that task, and because I removed them and then put 2 on, I didn't adjust the duration of my task. So watch out for your task durations. If you assign a resource or 2 to a task, you've set a precedence. And if you then increase or decrease the resources, you will change the task duration. The only way around that would be to fix the duration of the task, and that is by double-clicking the task, going to advanced and setting the task type to fixed duration. By setting the task type to fixed duration, it means that if you increase or decrease the number of resources working on a task, you will not change the duration of the task. And so that's something to think about. I will go cancel. So I've got 2 electricians working on that, for example, and maybe I've also got some travel. So I mentioned I would show you how that cost resource worked. So here we've got travel from our resource sheet. And I'm going to go across to this cost column, and it's going to cost me in terms of travel for these guys to go to that site. Maybe it's going to cost me $150, so I put $150, and there's my travel cost of $150, as well as my 2 electricians working on that particular task. Now, in addition to that, maybe I'm going to get Susan to give me a couple of hours on that task as well. So I'll go down to the S's to Susan. I don't want to put complete units. I want to put hours, because she's not going to work full time on that task like the electricians are. I'm going to put 2H, and when I press enter, she jumps to the top of my list, and it shows as 0.04. So 4% of her time, 2 hours, is being assigned to that particular task. And again, we have our task duration altering. So I'm actually going to remove, and I'm actually going to fix the duration, because now the reason that the duration increased is Susan only works from 7 till 5 on Monday to Friday. So it may be that that task actually has to move in order for her to be involved in it. So be aware of that as well. You could try fixing the duration, but at the end of the day, let's do that, fixed duration, okay, and then go to Susan and put 2 hours. It's still going to result in a change in that duration. Where's my electrician? Scroll up. There. So she only works certain days and certain hours, so that may cause your durations to alter, so you've got to work with that, and fixing the duration won't make any difference. So I'm actually going to put it back to fixed units, which is the default, and okay, let's look at this task here. So in summary, you click on a task. You can hold the control key and choose more than one, but if I click on a task, I go to this list. I can choose to go with the night shift. Maybe I'm going to put 4 night shift electricians onto that task and enter, so it's shifted it. And maybe Brian is going to give me 5 hours towards that, so it could be units and hours, and that's affected the duration as well. And also any costs. So the travel may be a cost, which is maybe $120, and so that's what I'm seeing there as well. And so that's how we assign resources, either units or hours or costs, to our tasks. Now sometimes we end up with overallocation. Let's do this. If I select these 3 tasks, for example, and maybe just one actually, and let's say I go to electrician's day shift, and I say, okay, 500 hours is what it's going to take. And when I press enter, it says, if you want to get 500 person hours done in that one day, you do not have enough electricians. You need 20.83 electricians in order to get 500 hours of work done within that one day. And you don't have 20.8. In fact, if I double click the electricians and go to general, I will find that I've only got 10. And it wants me to have 20 points. So I could go and hire, if it's imperative that I get that done in a day, I could go and hire some more electricians, or maybe I could assign some supportive resources to the 10 electricians to help them get those hours done in that time. But either way, this overallocation appears. And overallocation means you've assigned more resources to a task than you've got in your resource sheet. So we've assigned 20 units of electricians and we've only got 10. So that's a problem. Or maybe you've only assigned 10, but you've got them working on more tasks at the same time and they can't be in 2 or more places at the same time. So you've got to think about how you're going to resolve your over allocation. Can I assign some resources who aren't busy at that period of time, who have the skill set we need to support and bring, help them get the job done? Or do I need to hire more? Or can I not have them working on 2 things at the same time? Maybe because they do have to be in 2 places. I'm just going to resolve this by saying I've got 10 electricians and immediately the problem goes away because I'm within the number of electricians I've got. So think about over allocation. It's a little red person that appears in the indicator column and how you're going to resolve that. So think about your template, and of course with your template, the more specific your template is, the more specific your task names are going to be, your resource allocations are going to be, but the more generic it is, you're just leaving things for them to overwrite and change things as they wish. And you may set up the resources or you may not. The thing is, you've got these options, and I'm just going to close that. Now practice what you've learnt, absorb what we've covered, and I'll see you in the next video.